There's a large cadre of YouTubers, of talking heads on the business shows telling you that the Chinese economy is going to collapse. I raise my hand and I'm part of that group. I believe the Chinese economy is going to collapse, and it's going to pull the world's economies down. There have been a number of YouTubers who've done some tremendous detail work on it, one of them being Andre Jacques. He's one of my favorites. He's explaining that the Chinese real estate economy is bigger than the U.S. stock markets, all of them combined. And you need to understand that. But the important thing is, where do you invest to profit off of it? And that's what they don't tell you. What I want you to do is watch Andre's video so that you understand totally why it's going to collapse, and then I'm going to tell you how you can profit off of it.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
About 30 days ago, Andre said that the Chinese economy would collapse in 25 days. He made a very specific prediction, and it didn't happen, which really reminds me a lot of The Big Short. Michael Burry predicted it for years that the subprime crisis was going to happen and the banking crisis would follow it, and no one believed him. And so it takes a while for it to come to fruition, and that's because Wall Street doesn't want it to happen. They want the market to rebound so that they can profit off of it before it happens. So Andre does such a fantastic job, and there's really no reason for me to repeat what he has to say. So after you watch this video, I want you to go to and watch Andre's video. Here's the link to it, and it'll also be in the description. But before I get into where you're going to invest, I want to give you a snippet of what Andre is saying so you have some understanding of what's about to happen, and then I'm going to explain to you where I think you might be wanting to put some of your money to take advantage of it, and how you can sit back maybe and make sure you don't take the beating that a lot of people are going to. So here's a short preview of Andre's video.
The Chinese real estate market could see the biggest property crash the world has ever seen, which is why the government has injected another 1 trillion yuan or $145 billion in stimulus. And here's a couple fun facts that are really going to blow your mind, because China is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Their GDP, for example, the gross domestic product, which is the thing that measures how much stuff a country makes, grew by 8.1% last year in 2021. Just for context, out of the top 10 most advanced economies in the world, they were the second fastest growing one, right behind India, which grew at 8.9%. But the craziest part is not how fast they've grown, but how they've done it. Because for the last 20 years, the way they've done it is through real estate, which has now ballooned to a value of between 55 to 60 trillion dollars. Now, that's a lot of money, but how much is that really? Here's how you can think about it. China's real estate market is so big that it is more valuable than the combined net worth of the entire US stock market. And the US stock market is so big that it represents roughly 56% of the world's stock market at $48 trillion. So as big and as powerful and as influential the US stock market is, it is still smaller than China's real estate, which also represents roughly 30% of China's entire economy, which also happens to be the second biggest economy right behind the US. Now, where this story last left off is when China approved a $45 billion stimulus package to help the real estate developers finish building their projects, as well as the most recent $145 billion stimulus to help the economy going again. But in today's video, you're going to find out that that amount of money is extremely short in comparison to how much they actually need. And a lot of this is thanks to what's called zero COVID policy, which has had a huge effect on their economy. So with that said, I want to help explain exactly what's going on and how this will affect us, because there's been some new data that's been recently released. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so now you're either a believer or you're not. As a believer, if you are, I want you to write down two tickers. One is YXI and the other is CHIX. These are both ETFs. The YXI is a short. It's a 1X short. Stay away from the 2X and the 3X shorts because they are attached to options contracts and they don't really reflect as well as I believe the YXI. As I say, the YXI is the short of China and the CHIX is the long. And why I want you to have both of them is I want you to put those on your charts so every day you can look at it and see how they're moving inversely to each other and how it's going to confirm in your mind exactly what's going to happen. Let me take you to my computer where I use Moomoo charts very effectively to give me this relationship so that I can see what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And I want to again emphasize, this is not going to happen with a boom. It's going to take time. It's going to be, and if you really want to understand how long it might take, watch the movie The Big Short. I believe it's on Amazon Prime Video, and watch it. And that will give you some confirmation of Wall Street doesn't always know what's happening, and Wall Street doesn't always want to address it. Because think about what Andre said, is this is going to go across the world. Our banking system has a substantial amount of money invested in China's real estate market. So it's going to ripple across the pond, and so it'll take a time, and they'll fight it. But if you'll watch it, you'll see it happening. So let's go to my computer and my Moomoo charts. Okay, this is my Moomoo charts. Why do I use Moomoo? Well, to be very open and honest, they agreed to help sponsor my channel, and that gives me the ability then to bring you more services and more information and get more people involved in my business to help you make better investment decisions. What I'm looking at now is my desktop version of the Moomoo charts. This information is available on my phone as well because I have a wonderful mobile app. And what I'm looking at here is the short position, the YXI on Moomoo. And let me take it and make it bigger. And what you do here is you go up here to your 4 arrows pointing, and that brings it to a bigger view. And what you're seeing here is the movement as China was doing well. This is in 2021. You can see the price action was all below the 200-day, the 50-day, and the 9-day moving average. And then it kind of reversed itself back here in July of 2021. And it has pretty much stayed above the 200-day until we had a slight dip down here in July 10th of 2022, and then it cleared all 3 lines on July the 27th, 2022. And what I'm looking for is the movement up. And what that's telling me is the market, the sentiment towards the stability of China is going negative. And it's being confirmed down here in the MACD, which is a delayed analysis, and you can see it's moved from red to green. So that's giving me an indication that there is a sentiment of negative China as you and I and the talking heads recognize that China is going to crash. And it's going to crash for its real estate crisis, its financial crisis, its COVID policy. It's got a lot of things going against it. Now so you have some comparison of what the positive side looks at like. Let's look at the other side of those. Okay, now this is the CHIX chart, the ETF that is long on China. And as you can see, it has acquired really a downward trend, if you will, back from May of 2021. It then crossed the 200-day moving average in July of 21, had a little bit of a surge, and then crossed it again, and now has stayed again below the 200-day since March of 2022, and then crossed the 50-day as well on July 18th, 2022. So the sentiment against China is pretty negative. Now, when our market rallies, as it did this past Friday, you see it actually bumped up over the 9-day, just because everything was up, and everybody was buying everything, but it still stayed even below the 50-day moving average. So as the China market fails and they start failing to meet their payments on their bonds, particularly their foreign bonds, particularly their U.S. foreign bonds, you're going to see these two move in opposite directions. This is where I would advise you to park some of your money. I'm very heavy right now in cash because I think this is going to have a ripple effect across the ocean, much as, and I guess if you want to grab for a comparison, as the coronavirus. This could be as big as the coronavirus. Okay, that's my analysis with Moomoo charts. And I want to share with you that Moomoo has a promotion. They're giving away 13 stocks to anybody who comes and opens up an account before September the 15th. And they'll give you 15 stocks if you're willing to put $2,000 into the account and leave it there for a period of time. And then you get access to the charts and the things that I showed you. And I think it's very valid. I know it is. I went and had a meeting in Orlando, Florida with the executives of Moomoo this past week because I wanted to be sure if I'm going to recommend it to my clients that they're a good, solid company. Granted, they're a Chinese company. And are they going to fail? No, they're incorporated in the United States, and they have offices in the United States, and they are building a substantial following in the United States. So I feel comfortable with my money there. Okay, so when is this going to happen? How is it going to happen? And what is going to be the impact of it? So I got to thinking. I made the mention in that earlier in the video that it's going to hit like the coronavirus. And so I thought, well, what was the time frame for the coronavirus? Well, we learned about it, or at least the stock market learned about it on February 20th, 2020. And then the S&P hit its bottom on March 25th, 2020. And the bottom was a drop of 36%. Do I think that could happen and it could become known as the China bubble? Yeah, I do. Do I think it will come back as fast as the coronavirus did? No, I don't, because I think the ripple will take longer. We knew what the coronavirus was. We basically shut the whole thing down. What we won't know is how deep is Goldman Sachs into China's real estate? How deep is J.P. Morgan into China's real estate? How is that going to affect Tesla and their 55% of their business? How is that going to affect General Motors and their 48% of their business? And in fact, about the same amount of ownership of General Motors. It's going to take a longer time to figure it all out. So that's why I'm sitting very heavily in cash right now. And I'm looking for places to put my cash. But before I get into that in my videos, I need to address what's happening in Europe and what Vladimir's doing and his shenanigans and how he's shelling the largest nuclear facility in Europe. And I understand why, because every ounce of energy that is sold from that nuclear plant is an ounce of oil and gas guess that Vladimir can't sell Europe as we move through the winter. And I'll do a video going deeper into that tomorrow. That's what I want my channel to become, is a place you can come to help you make better investment decisions. I learned so much down at FinCon down in Orlando this past week that I want to share with you. And I'm bringing in some additional sponsors who want to make their products and their platforms available to you. And they've got to get past the Carry test. If it isn't good for Carry, it isn't good for you. And and I need to meet your CEOs, and I need to understand what they're doing and what your plans are. And then what I can do. Why do I want these sponsors? I want to build the best of us investors to be your one source, your first source for information. I want to bring many of these talented people under the Best of Us umbrella so that you have one source. I was even talking to a website designer and saying, could you turn me into the TV guide of the best of financial for the world, and it come to one place, and they could come and find who the best presenters are in real estate, in art, I met a company about farmland, how you can buy in farmland. And so that's what I want to do for you, is give you a one source that you can come and find everything you need. And then you still need to go and see people like Andre. He's a genius, and he's funny, and he does a good job. That's what Best of Us Investors is all about. That's what Carrie Grinkmeyer is about. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow.